Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to our second Digital Opportunity Grant information session. We're really excited that you're here today and excited to talk to you about this grant program. So just to give you a sense of what to expect today, we're going to start by just doing a very brief overview of who we are. I recognize a lot of faces and names, but there are definitely some new folks, so want to make sure you know who we are. And then I'm going to give a general overview of the grant. And then my colleague, Adrienne Clark, is going to talk through both track 1 and track 2 of the grant. And then I'll talk through some grant resources, and then we'll open it up to questions. We are going to take questions in the chat today, and then if we need clarification, you can unmute yourself. So please start by adding any questions throughout the presentation in the chat. We'll wait to the end, and then we'll go through and start pulling questions. And that really helps us because it enables us to see the questions and be able to pull those questions and update our FAQs. So there's a reason why we do it that way. So thank you so much. And please, we encourage any and all questions, points of clarity. That's really what this session is here for. So just a quick overview of who we are. So we are the Office of Digital Opportunity. And we are within the Division of Broadband and Digital Opportunity, which is within the Department of Information Technology, which is a cabinet level agency. So it's definitely a mouthful, right? And we work really closely with our sister office, the Broadband. And so I'm seeing, hang on, before I continue, there seems to be a problem receiving the content. Can folks tell me if they're able to see my screen? It looks like a couple people are having trouble seeing my screen. Okay. All right, it looks like people are seeing the screen except for a couple folks. For those, we don't have technical assistance today to help with that. What I'll say is that we will be putting these slides on our website. In fact, the slides from last week are already on there, as well as this recording. So if you're having some trouble, might be worthwhile going out and then coming back in and see if you're still having trouble. Apologies that if you are, but it looks like most people are able to see the screen. Wonderful. So we work really closely with our sister office at the Office of Digital of Broadband Infrastructure that focuses on ensuring that every North Carolinian has access to the internet. And we focus on all of the other elements of the digital divide. And we really see digital opportunity as economic development, right? We're ensuring that people have access to the internet, have the ability to afford the internet, and then have the computers and the skills to use the internet to improve their education, to improve their job prospects, ultimately for the economic gains of North Carolina. And you can see some broad stats on the screen here. And so that's really what we're focused on as a part of this grant program. So let me give you a broad overview of this grant. So before I do, I just want to address the elephant in the room, and I know we may have more questions on this, and we're happy to answer those questions. Yes, these funds are federal funding, and that any digital opportunity grant awards are contingent on federal approval and applicable law. We will keep all of our applicants apprised of any additional updates and responses from the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, the NTIA, that's our funder, or any changes in law that may change funding, program guidelines, or criteria. If you have specific questions about that, we're happy to answer them. But yes, these are federal funding. Yes, we will make sure that you know if there are any changes related to these funds. So the Digital Opportunity Grant is a $17 million grant program with a period of performance from January 1, 2026 through July 31st, 2029. There's a little bit of nuance there, so I'll talk about that in a moment. Applications are due June 9th by 11:59 p.m. You're going to see us reiterate this deadline a number of times, but just want to make sure you know that this will be by June 9th at 11:59 p.m. And we do expect to fund between 10 to 15 projects total. So if you're doing the quick math in your head, 17 million divided by 10 to 15 projects, we are looking to fund large at-scale projects through this grant program. And note that we have this asterisk by about the official start date. The official start date will ultimately be in the grant agreement contract. And the reason we can't give a definite start date is once we select our finalists, those finalists have to be approved by the NTIA, by our federal funders. And we expect that process to take a couple months. That's not new news. Since the beginning of this program, we always knew that NTIA was going to need to do that approval. And so we think that January 1 is likely a start date. But again, we would update our finalists if that start date were to change. And the purpose of the Digital Opportunity Grant really is to develop new and expand existing digital skills, digital navigation, and online safety programs, as well as to create a structured system for the provision of deployment of computers to increase ownership, help desk, and technical support to those who need it most. And this program is really meant to support strategies 3 through 5 of the North Carolina Digital Opportunity Plan. So those strategies include strategy 3, ensuring that North Carolinians can acquire the digital and information gathering skills and understanding to meet their personal needs and the state's workforce needs. Strategy 4, promote practices and leverage tools to ensure online privacy and security. And strategy 5, ensure that North Carolinians have access to large screen computers, help desk, and technical support to meet their needs. I know that we had a lot of questions about what large screen computers, like what that definition is. We had this in the last information session. I'm going to have one of my colleagues drop in that definition here. It's also defined in the guidelines for Track 2. So we do have 2 tracks in this grant program, and if you've been a partner of ours for a while, this is a little bit different than our previous grant programs. And the track 2 are really looking to focus on those different strategies, or the 2 tracks are really meant to focus on those different strategies. So track 1 is focused on digital skills, digital navigation, and online safety programs. And then track 2 is focused on computer ownership, capacity building, and sustainability. And we have a track 2A, which is our computer refurbisher hubs, and a track 2B, which is our computer deployment leads. And Adrian's going to talk through each of these in a lot more detail in just a little bit. I'll note that applicants can apply for track 1 and track 2, but if you're applying for track 2, you have to choose between track 2A or 2B. So you can't apply for track 2A and 2B. You have to choose either or. And I just want to note that while these are separate tracks, we do see these programs as working together, right? We believe deeply that if you're going to deploy computers, people then also need to have access to digital skills. You can't just give a person a computer and expect them to know how to use it. And so as part of requirements for our track 2B, our deployment leads, they have to be helping connect end users, so individuals, to digital skills. And those could be track 1 grantees, or it could be any of the other programs in the state that are focused on digital skills. So I just wanted to note that while these are separate tracks, we do expect that there would be coordination, and we at the state will support that coordination. Okay, so how much funding can applicants apply for? Well, it really just depends on the track. They're a little bit different. And I just want to know, someone is speaking. Could you please mute yourselves?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
And maybe Adrian, you could look and see who might be speaking and try to mute them if possible.
We'll move this meeting because it's just.
All right, I think I got it. Okay. So for track 1, digital skills, digital navigation, and online safety, applicants can apply for between $1 million and $3.5 million per project. If you request more or less funding than this funding range, you must include a justification for that request, and that's already kind of baked into the application questions. We will fund selected entities based on the request and reserve the right to only fund a portion of an application. For track 2, it also depends on which portion of track 2. So for track 2A, the computer refurbisher hubs, we expect to fund 2 grant awards, and each hub will be funded at a very specific amount. That's $1,970,000. And each hub will be responsible for supplying a minimum of 25 computers per year to the leads, that's track 2B, for a total of 7,500 over the grant period. And for track 2B, we expect to award 4 grants in 2 leads for track 2B. And again, each lead will receive a certain amount of funds. They'll receive $977,000 and $500 to support both lead and partner activities. And Adrian's going to talk through a little bit more about how these funds can be distributed. So we do have specific applicant eligibility, and if you've applied for one of our grants before, this will look pretty familiar to you. So applicants and partners receiving funding will be accepted from community service organizations. So this includes local government, so town, city, county, local library systems, or K-12 school systems. Includes nonprofit organizations, in this case only accepting from 501c3s. Higher education institutions, which could include community colleges, four-year institutions, both public and private, regional entities such as regional councils of government, and state agencies and federally recognized tribal government entities. In the FAQs, we go into pretty significant detail of kind of what encompasses any of these categories, and it's pretty expansive, but we are always happy to discuss with you if you're not sure if you fit into one of these categories. Happy to work with you to see if you do. And I'll just note that for-profit entities are not eligible to apply for this funding opportunity. This is just for those that fit within these categories. We do have specific additional eligibility requirements for track 2A, which are our hubs. And this is due to kind of the very specific technical nature of our computer refurbisher hubs. So our hubs must be a computer headquarters in North Carolina with existing large screen computer deployment programs and ongoing programmatic activities. They must currently serve a minimum of 10 community-based organizations. So we really want to see that they're already embedded in community. They must already be deploying a minimum of 2,500 large screen computers annually to North Carolina residents, and they must have operated within North Carolina for a minimum of 7 years. For all of our tracks, there are some specific program recipient and geographic requirements. So for program recipients, funded projects will focus on serving all digitally excluded populations in North Carolina. In our FAQs and in the guidelines, we do link to who the National Telecommunications and Information Administration believes are the most digitally excluded populations. And in the FAQs, we also provide a lot of details and suggested examples of focused program participants, like who you may want to serve in your application. In terms of geographic reach, we're really looking, again, for kind of large programs that are at scale. So priority will be given to organizations that are regional or statewide, and that will partner with or subgrant funding to smaller local organizations. So really looking for larger entities who can help build the capacity of smaller entities so that they can smaller entities that have community trust can continue to do their work and ultimately build their capacity to be eligible for state and federal funding in the future. Application process and deadline. Second time I'm saying it, applications are due June 9th, 11:59 p.m. Submitted online through Qualtrics. So we're using a different application portal this time. We think this is a little bit more user-friendly. The application for each track, so there is an application for each track, track A or track 1 and track 2, and you can find that on our website. And then a list of application questions for each track as well as other grant resources are also available on that webpage. We have a budget template, we have budget instructions, we have a whole lot of resources, and we will be continuing to update resources as we see needs. Also, we'll be continuing to update the FAQs regularly as we have these information sessions and we see, what isn't clear, what do we need to provide more information about. So your feedback, your questions really helps us make sure that other people have what they need to apply as well. So our application review process is that applications will be reviewed by a committee of kind of external reviewers. So this includes digital opportunity, stakeholders, and community members, as well as state agency officials. Ultimately, the Office of Digital Opportunity will review recommendations from the external reviewers and make final selection decisions ourselves. The selection timeline. So notice that the application window opened on the 10th. We have these 2 information sessions. We'll be doing a number of other technical support. So we'll have what we're calling track-specific webinars or track deep dives, both on track 1 and track 2 to kind of talk through a little bit more specifics for each of those tracks and take questions on those tracks specifically so we can go a little bit deeper. Those dates will be announced this week. And then we'll also have drop-in office hours. And we'll kind of do these on an as-needed basis. We should be having some dates on the calendar this week as well. But we've done these previously. These are pretty informal. We typically will start with a very broad overview and then just open it up to any questions people have. By the time we're doing these drop-in office hours, people are often kind of well on their way to crafting an application. And so they might have specific questions on a specific question or on the broad guidelines or one specific element. And so these are really great to kind of drop in, drop off, listen to what other people's questions are and ask your questions yourselves. The application window closes June 9th. And that's kind of, as soon as it closes, that's when our review will begin. Contingent awards will be announced in September, likely towards the end of September. And they are contingent because the NTIA does have to approve all finalists that we select. So again, this is not a new rule. This has been the rule for the last year. We knew this was coming, but it will take some time for them to make that approval. So we're expecting it'll take about 2 months for the NTIA to approve those finalists. In that time, we'll utilize that time wisely. We'll train our contingent grantees on monitoring and compliance, on some programmatic specifics, as well as make sure that they've seen what the contract looks like, the grant agreement looks like, and to be able to ask questions. So we do expect to receive anticipated approval from the NTIA in November with grant start date January 2026. Okay, that was the broad overview of this program. I'm now going to pass it over to Adrian, who's going to talk through more specifics on both track 1 and track 2. Adrian?
All right. So track 1 is the digital skills, digital navigation, and online safety. This supports strategy 3 and 4 of North Carolina's Digital Opportunity Plan. These are the strategies that are working to expand digital literacy, digital navigation programs, and online safety. They're tied to several measurable objectives, including by 2029, we will increase the percentage of North Carolinians who are confident in using word processing programs, finding educational content online, applying for jobs online, and communicating with a healthcare provider online to improve confidence and the ability to protect personal data by 10%. Next slide. The overall goal of this track is to expand digital literacy and online safety skills programs, and to expand or create digital navigation programs. Digital navigators are like healthcare navigators, except they assist people with meeting their digital needs. That could be connecting with free or low-cost internet, or free or low-cost devices through device refurbisher, or with library lending programs, and connecting people with digital skills classes. Awardees will receive trainings on the state level, that's from NCDIT, on digital skills standards and digital navigator best practices for alignment with their programs. Next slide. Funding for this track, it will be $9,150,000. This will fund 4 to 9 projects for Track 1. Again, the performance period is January 1, 2026 through July 31, 29. And the funding start date, someone is still not muted. If everyone can mute themselves, that would be great. Thank you. Next slide. There's a lot that encompasses under a digital navigator program. And this grant is meant to increase the capacity of current digital literacy programs and digital navigation programs led by partner organizations across the state. As part of this application, applicants must include a list of partners and/or subrecipients involved in the project and describe their role. If all partners are not, or subrecipients are not yet identified, applicants must describe the process for identifying partners. So many of you on this call are partner organizations who've been doing this work for a long time, but it's important for us to support the development of new programs that target funding for organizations with strong community trust, but may not have been integrated into this field previously. So we're looking to build capacity of current programs as well as build new programs. Next slide. So for the Computer Ownership Capacity Building and Sustainability Program, this is Track 2. Track 1 provides individuals with the education and skills needed to navigate the internet while protecting their privacy. And Track 2 gives them access to devices needed to use those skills to meet their digital needs. Again, Track 2 has 2 parts, and that is Track A, which is computer refurbishers and hubs that will be responsible for redistributing refurbished computers to leads and partners. And Track 2 would be computer leads and partners who will distribute the computers to the community. Track 2 focuses on Strategy 5 to ensure North Carolinians have access to large screen computers, help desk, and technical support to meet their needs. Many measurable objectives for this track, but they include 95% of North Carolinian households to own a working large screen device that's a laptop, a desktop, or a tablet that's internet capable to meet their needs. Next screen. This track will expand computer ownership initiatives to build a foundation for sustainable statewide ecosystem of local refurbishers and community organizations working to increase computer ownership in local communities. Computer ownership refers to individuals owning a personal computer to be able to access whenever they get ready to conduct telehealth calls, apply for jobs, complete college applications, whatever they need for their to be able to navigate the internet at their leisure. Next slide. So the funding for this overall is $7,850,000. 2 hubs will receive $1,970,000 each. 4 leads will receive $977,500 each. So that will be 2 hubs and 4 leads. The performance period again is January the 1st, 2026 to July 31st, 29. And that funding will, the start date will also depend on approval from NTIA. Next slide, please. So the leads for the funding is broken down. Each lead, again, out of the 977,000 will utilize a maximum of $160,000 for their program activities as a lead. The leads will distribute a minimum of $640,000 of those funds to partners for programming and staff. The amount that the partners will receive will differ based on the needs of their organization and the individuals that they are serving. Leads can also, and their partners should also utilize $177,500 in supplemental funding for additional computers to meet specific needs of individuals outside of what they receive for hubs. This means that they will use, the leads and the partners will use these funds to purchase additional computers from other refurbishers or other suppliers. This could be assistive technology and specific software as well. Next slide. So the roles and responsibilities, next slide, of hubs. The hubs are responsible for receiving, processing, and preparing used computers for redistribution to computer deployment leads and partners through North Carolina. They will have acquired the computers and have them ready, equipped with the specialized software or and all the specifications required by the state. And we do have a full list of computer specifications in our guidelines and FAQs, and then to deploy them to the hubs and to the leads and the partners. Next slide. The responsibilities of the hubs during the performance period of the grant will be to distribute 7,500 refurbished program computers to the hubs and the leads. They will acquire them, prepare them for redistribution, transport them to the leads and partners, provide warranties and help desk support, participate in deployment training, mentor and build relationships with leads and partners, and collect data for feedback. Next slide. So the computer department leads are coordinating agency organizations responsible for identifying, managing, and supporting local computer deployment partners. They serve as a liaison between NCDIT, hubs, and computer deployment partners, ensuring seamless communication, operational efficiency, programming, mentoring to ensure that their outcomes are met. They will sub-grant and fund the deployment partners as well. Next slide. The leads will be responsible for coordinating and identifying 4 to 6 partners as subgrantees of the program to support the deployment of computers to individuals. They will identify those partners, ensure that their programs align with the grant performance goals, collect data for reporting, mentor them, including their budget, program reporting, conducting regular meetings. They will attend the deployment training, accept the computers from the hubs, transfer them to partners and lead, provide support to partners to expand and strengthen their capacity and impact, and procure additional computers received from the hubs. Next screen. Computer deployment partners are partners, trusted organizations in local communities responsible for direct distribution and support of computers to individuals. They work with the leads and hubs to ensure that computers are effectively delivered, properly utilized, and accompanied by support services. Leads must designate and subgrant 4 to 6 partners. Leads are eligible to be one of the partners as well and receive funding for this role as well. This means that a lead will be able to receive funds as a partner. They can be a partner working directly also with the individuals distributing the computers, and they will receive additional funding for a partner role. Next slide. The partners are responsible for conducting outreach to potential computer recipients, vetting them to ensure that they meet eligibility requirements, identify their computer needs, ensure on-site staff support for distribution, accepting the computers from leads and hubs, utilize allocated funding to purchase additional computers, to supplement the supply from hubs, deploy computers to residents based on their needs. And again, a full list of the grant program guidelines and responsible partner responsibilities is listed in our grant program guidelines. Next slide. And Maggie will talk about our resources.
Thanks, all. And just a reminder to please drop questions in the chat. I did see someone raise their hand. We're trying to collect the questions. It makes it a little bit easier, but if you're not in a place that you can type, we can definitely take your raised hand too. So I saw it. If you still want to ask a question, I think it was Jessica, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so we do have various grant resources on our webpage. So you can find links to the application tracks. So application for track 1 or for track 2. And again, you can apply for both. We do have the guidelines, the FAQs, budget template and instructions. We have the digital opportunity plan executive summary, as well as all the application questions. We do suggest that you put those questions together in advance before dropping them into the Qualtrics survey. And then I just also wanted to let you know about the Source Finder. This is a list of over 1,100 we call assets or resources in the state that are supporting digital skills, digital navigation, computer lending, or low-cost computer programs. This can be a great way to, say, identify potential partners or sub-grantees, groups that you might want to partner with throughout your application process. So just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that. We will take questions. Before we do, I just wanted to know if you have any questions, please reach out to us. You can reach out via this email, digitalopportunity@nc.gov. We are monitoring this daily. We'll be very responsive. Literally, it's our job to answer questions. So please reach out if you have any specific questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and take a couple questions that came in the chat. Jay, I see you have a lot of questions on hub responsibilities. I'm going to answer 2 right now and jump to some others. I know that we're also working on getting you a written answer on those. That's happening behind the scenes. But I'm going to start with 2 and then jump to some others. And Jessica, I see your hand raised as well. So you're asking about the 5-year device rule that's in the requirements for the hubs. We have gotten this question and we are working on a response to it. So know that we are working on something and are reviewing that rule and the guidelines. And then 3, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong here, will hubs be allowed to use grant funds to pay for tech support fees? I believe the answer is yes. You can use funds for that. And am I correct on that, Adrian?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Wonderful. I'm going to jump to David's questions. Jay, we'll get back to your specific questions and have some answers in writing as well. I'm going to do David's questions and then I'll go to Jessica, who's had her hand raised off and on, and then keep going through the chat. So David is asking how much documented need to support the proposed grant project will be expected in the application, i.e. data on lack of information, skill, education about computer internet use for track 1, or data on lack of computer ownership data in populations for track 2. You know, you're trying to make the argument, right? I don't know if there's like a threshold for the right amount of documented need, but you're trying to make an argument of what is the need for the groups that you are supporting through this program. We do have a digital opportunity grant survey that has a lot of data that could be helpful to you. We also have the American Communities Survey, which is census level, but it is helpful with some of this, particularly with computer ownership. It doesn't go in by, say, specific groups or populations, but it can give you a sense. We'll make sure that those links are provided in the web page. But I'd say, you know, some data is readily available, a lot of data isn't. And so we're also really looking to fund organizations that understand the need in community and can articulate that, right? And it might be more qualitative, right? Versus quantitative if you can't find the, say, hard numbers data. I hope that helps. Jessica, I'm going to head to you before I go to the next question in the chat. Can you unmute yourself, Jessica? Are you able to do that?
Hi, this is Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wait, sorry, my chat said it's only available during the meeting, so it won't let me type into it.
Weird.
So I'm not sure what's going on with that. So my question is, how are residents or people going to be able to apply for these computers, and the measurements to meet or the proving criteria to approve someone to be able to get these computers? Is that going to be provided by you guys with the training, or is that something local measures we need to create within our own organization? How to vet who's going to be, I know we have the criteria on that list, excluded populations or included populations, but how are we going to track who gets these computers?
Adrian, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Okay. Can you clarify that again, please?
So for example, you said there were the leads, if there was a lead getting 2,500 computers a year. How are we going to initiate to get those computers out? Do we just, you know, we're just going to give 5 computers to our partners or whatever? I'm saying these no numbers, but we're still going to require them to provide documentation of how they are tracking. We're supposed to be oversighting them. So how are we going to be able to help our partners to be able to track who's getting these computers? Because I know, you know, we got to have to be able to track this equipment somehow to know, report back where this money's went.
So what you would do would be when you're assessing the needs of your partners, the leads partners, the leads will be able to talk to the partners about their programs and set a number of how many computers, how many people they want to serve as far as how many computers they want to get out. So if they will say your partner wants to do 100 computers for the year, then they would need to track, the basic information of who is receiving those computers, and they will have that record to report back to you. But the computers that you receive from the hub will be based on what your needs, the leads needs, as well as the partner's needs on how many computers. Whenever you all receive the devices, you should be tracking those with their serial numbers and having them logged in. So you have a tracking system that will help you to know which computer, and then when you assign that computer, if you receive 100 computers and you send 20 of them to 3 partners, then you will be able to, by that serial number, document which partner you are sending this particular device to. Is that
Yes,
what you're
ma'am, I
asking?
understand that. And I think more in clarification is that's easy for the lead to be able to track 4 or 5 partners, but then how are the leads going to oversee and risk management with the partners they're choosing when they do their monthly meetings with them? Are you guys going to provide guidance on what documentation we should be looking
Yes.
for to make
Yeah,
sure
it
they're
will be
not
this.
making
Yes.
some- Okay.
Yes, we will, because we will be the same type of monitoring that we will be doing with you. What your outcomes are, how many computers you received, who you sent those computers to. That same documentation will be required by the partners. They will need to intake those computers, have the serial numbers, and then be able to document where they went, who they gave each one of those computers to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
That's a great question. So there will be robust training on data
Yes.
collection and how to, how to keep data safe and private as well. So
Yes.
great question.
Yeah. So for the leads, the very same monitoring and the reporting that will be required by us in CDIT would be the same reporting and requirement that you would use for your partners, because you will literally be overseeing your partners. They will be reporting back to you. You will include their data in your reporting. And again, we will have robust training on this.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Jesse?
Yes.
Moving on to the next, and I have gotten a couple people emailing and texting me, letting me know that they cannot type in the chat, so much like our last question. So if you cannot type in the chat and you have a question you want to ask, please raise your hand. We usually have someone who can kind of help troubleshoot some of those technical issues, but she was unavailable today. So we'll work on addressing those for future meetings. Want to go to Alexa, who's asking, can supplemental devices include hotspots to ensure folks receiving computers also have Wi-Fi access? I see a bunch of thumbs up on this. I think the answer is no to this. Is that right, Adrian?
So, hotspots?
Yeah.
No, the answer is no, that hotspots are not included as a device that is access to the internet.
Completely understand the need for hotspots, but they are not an eligible device in this grant program.
Mm-hmm.
Jay asked for clarity. I may have missed this answer earlier, but will hubs have access to data collected by partners' leads for their own records? I think we're working on an answer to this. It's a little bit more nuanced in that because the leads are grantees of the state. They're grantees of our office, not of the hubs themselves. Kind of data, we need to figure out the data sharing. I think at a high level, the answer is yes, but I think there's going to be a little bit more of a nuanced response to that with some safeguards in place. I'm going to go to Rhonda, who raised her hand, and then I'll get back to Alexa's other question in the chat. So Rhonda, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I actually had two questions. The first one was a little bit related to the previous one. Where I live, I'm in far western North Carolina. We have horrible internet access. And so I'm wondering if the fact that our internet reliability is so unstable, would that hurt our eligibility? Because it's one thing to have a computer and to teach the basic skills, but if the majority of the people have trouble getting onto the internet, then we have an issue there. And well, I'll just leave it with that one question.
So completely understand that. What I will note is that that's why we work so closely with our broadband infrastructure office, who is deploying funds to build out high-speed internet to all unserved locations in the state. It, of course, is not an overnight process, but we do believe we will reach 100% access by 2029. So that's why these funds are focused on kind of other elements of the digital divide. So to answer your question, no, you would not be penalized if people in your community don't have access at home, right? You'll be working on these other elements of the digital divide. And we know that in areas where people don't have internet at home because there is no access to the internet, that those are some of the areas that need this work the most. Does that answer your question?
I guess it does. I mean, it's not that it's totally lacking, it's unreliable. That's where the hotspots, I said that would be something that would be really critical. Folks in Cherokee, Clay County, areas of Graham and Clay out there, it's very unreliable.
I hear you. I'll also just note that unreliableness of the service is also going to be addressed by the infrastructure. So there's some, it's both for places that don't have internet or it's not at a speed that we consider internet, so that we can consider them completely unserved, as well as people who are underserved. So that would be that unreliability. So I would just say, I please encourage you to still apply, understanding that there is unreliable internet for many of the people that you serve.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Alexa asks, is the default payout structure reimbursement based, or will the majority of grantees receive some upfront funding? Default is reimbursement based. There is the ability to provide, I think, a 30-day advance, but it will be kind of decided on a case-by-case basis, and it would have to be basically the exact amount you would need for those 30 days. And you'd have to show that you are spending that down completely. We completely understand that this is a challenge. In our previous grant programs, we've been able to do quarterly advancements. It hasn't been as strict. Because of the funding source here, we are our hands are tied. So we're doing our the 30-day advance is kind of where we're able to be flexible, but it will be determined on a case-by-case basis. Bridget asks, so is it only large screen devices that are covered? Adrian, do you want to provide a little bit of clarity there?
Those are preferred, the top, but there are specialized cases where a smartphone may need to be used based on the group that you are serving, as well as iPads and, that assistive technology. Does that answer your question?
let us know, Bridget, if that does.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Bridget does say yes, thank you. And Rebecca adds in the chat that the guidelines say that limited acquisition of smartphones is allowed with approval. Yeah. Can two entities within the same organization, like NC State, apply? Yes, we have allowed that in the past, particularly for higher ed institutions where it is very, the entities are very separate, right? So I think that would be allowable. Other questions? People who can't type in the chat and have questions? Yes, Rhonda.
Hey, I apologize. I'm kind of on the road, so I might have missed some of it. I'm wondering if eligible partners might include community colleges along with nonprofit organizations.
Yes.
Yes.
Community colleges. Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, and Jay, I'm actually looking, I think we have some written answers to your questions as well. Jay asks, one more from me, for Track 2 hubs, will they need to provide all types of large screen computers, desktop, laptops, Chromebooks, and tablets? Adrian, do you want to take that one?
They not necessarily. If the hub does not say provide desktops, then that would be what the additional funding, the $177,000 for the leads and the partners to be able to purchase a piece of equipment that the hub does not provide. Does that answer your question?
And Jay, feel free to go off mute because I know that you had kind of a lot of kind of more specific questions as well.
Yeah, we do have a lot of specific questions. I might just email you guys the rest of them.
Okay.
Okay. And we can set up a time to chat too.
Yeah,
And
Okay, that would be great.
And that goes for anyone on the call. If you have, particularly if it's specific questions related to your specific application, right, that might, be in a specific circumstance, we're happy to have a conversation with you about it. We can't read anything that you send us, like we wouldn't read your application in advance, but we're always happy to set up a call. And Jay, we'll get the answers to your questions that you typed in the chat added to the FAQs, and then we'll respond as well to them. Deirdre asks, if an org applies for Track 2B as a lead, do we have to have a hub identified for supplying devices? No, the hubs apply separately.
Yes.
Anything to add to that, Adrian?
No, that's correct.
So no, you're not expected to supply your own, though you will have funding to purchase extra devices or devices that meet specific needs. And you will, yes, you will be paired up with a hub post-award. That is the role that we play, is pairing leads with specific hubs. And I did see early on some questions about the PowerPoint itself, whether it will be emailed out. We typically put it on the website, but let me see if we can get them emailed out as well. The slides and the recording of last week's information session is already on the website. We got it up, I think, in 24 hours. So we expect to do the same with this one as well. but we'll work on getting those sent out as well. It sounds like that would be helpful to folks. All right, Rhonda.
And this is a crazy question. I'm wondering if we could have access to the answers to Jay's questions. He sounds like he's asking really good questions.
Yes, I will add them to the FAQs.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And that's why we're asking, and unfortunately, many of you, hang on, I'm going to put some of the answers to Jay's questions in the chat that we've been able to kind of pull together in writing in the background here. This is why we ask for those of you who are actually able to access the chat. Sounds like many of you are not. That we this helps us update the FAQs, right? We expect to update those regularly, and so if we have questions in writing, it's just easier for us to pull them and to be able to then respond to them in the moment, but also in the FAQs.
I'm going to drop in the specifications into the chat.
All right, so those are some of the answers to Jay's questions, and we'll work on doing some copy editing before they get onto the FAQs. We have 4 minutes left. Any other questions from folks? This won't be your last time to ask questions, right?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Get off the mute. I couldn't get into the chat fast enough to type.
No worries.
I did have a question about, combining track 1 and track 2, like, as far as a sense of providing the education piece as far as with the refurbished devices kind of a thing. Would that be more from a partner standpoint, or can that still be like from a lead?
Yeah, a lead could, you could apply for track 1 and apply to be a lead. So track 2B. You could also be named as a partner for a lead and then also apply to track 1. So I think that there's a lot of ways that you could, apply for both tracks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cindy asks, any chance that the grant funding will not materialize? I mean, big elephant in the room. Like I mentioned, we're following all guidelines and all laws. We are able to draw down funds for these. We wouldn't be launching the program if we thought the funding wouldn't materialize. But we will, of course, keep you updated if something were to change. Great question. If you have other questions, please reach out to us. If you want to set up kind of some technical assistance with one of our team members, please reach out to us. We will announce the upcoming track deep dives and office hours within the next couple days. We appreciate all of you, right? We couldn't do this work without the work that you all are doing on the ground. And so thank you for taking an hour out of your day to learn about this opportunity. We really look forward to working with our grantees to implement this program and to close the digital divide in North Carolina. So thank you to everyone, and we look forward to your questions in the future. Thanks.